there. Now, finally, the UK inflation rate is the highest it's been in 30 years, currently 7% higher than France, but lower than Germany, Spain, the United States and the Eurozone average as a whole. Well, the entire Western world is facing, of course, this cost of living squeeze. Prices were already rising in the aftermath of the pandemic restrictions and almost unprecedented money printing. And now the war in Ukraine is impacting our cost of living even more. So can there be any end in sight to this tightening squeeze? What can be done in policy terms? Well, joining me now is Vicky Pryce, Chief Economic Advisor for the Centre for Economics and Business Research. Welcome to the programme. What on earth can ministers do to try and stop inflation? It seems to me that all of the potential solutions here are all pretty painful in and of themselves.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, one of those solutions is raising interest rates and therefore stopping the growth in the economy. As it is, we're already hearing of concerns that maybe in the second quarter of this year, we're going to see a contraction in GDP. It's happening up to a point already in Europe. So the issues are very international and there isn't a huge amount you can do by just raising interest rates. But of course, here in the UK, we've got the extra problem, which is the electricity cap going up. It's going to hit households this month, so it's going to increase inflation even further. And we're talking about possibly 8%, 9%, maybe double-digit inflation, whereas some countries in Europe are already beginning to think that they may have been coming to the end of this increase in inflation and there will be a slowdown from here on. Well, remains to be seen on what happens in the Ukraine. But otherwise, I presume, other things that can be done is subsidise prices even more, electricity prices in particular, and maybe, which is one of the things that was done at the time of the financial crisis, is lowering VAT possibly. That, of course, will affect what the government collects in terms of taxes, and it probably still needs it for the NHS and so on, but it could be done temporarily. It can have an instant impact on inflation, and then you can bring it up again, which is exactly what happened last time around. And then, of course, if anything, they increased it even further to the 20% we're seeing now. So there are areas of possible intervention by the government. The question is, are they at all prepared to consider them?
Some of these possible areas, the ones that, for example, ask more taxpayer cash, or rather borrowed cash, to be given out to individuals, is there not a risk there that if we give people more money, as some are suggesting, what actually happens there is you get a greater demand pull inflation? Prices rise higher as there's just more money sloshing about in the system that we've borrowed or printed.
Of course, but the real concern now, though, is that spending is going to be reduced. As we know, quite a lot of people may be falling into poverty, certainly fuel poverty over the next few months. And what you're seeing is that savings, which have gone up quite significantly, people are now much more, worried about whether they'll be able to, in fact, sort of spend enough to feed themselves and their families. And they are beginning to withdraw those savings, or at least what they're doing is they're putting less into the savings, bank, if you like, that they have every month. So there's already been research that suggests that people's attitude is already changing. They're going to have to draw on whatever they've saved for the spending to continue. But of course, we are a consumer-led society, and you're quite right to suggest that obviously, the more money we leave in people's pockets, the more likely it is that they're going to go out and spend it. But remember that for the lower paid in particular, the biggest items of spending tend to be food and energy or fuel costs as well at the pump, which have gone up very significantly. And they're the ones that need the extra support. So if you allow them to have a bit more, but do it in a way which is targeted, so that those at the lower end are the ones that benefit, at least what you will be doing is eliminating the possibility of so many people falling into poverty, which is what worries everyone at present.
And I suppose in the medium to long term, also supply side reform rather than just dealing with the demand side. I'm afraid we've run to the end of the programme here, but Vicky Pryce, thanks so much for talking us through those issues. They're really important for people up and down the country.